Chapter 19 Summary of the Legend of the Craft. The legend of the craft, as it is presented to us in what I have called later manuscripts, that is to say, the Dowland and those that follow it up to the Papworth, begins with a descant on the 7 liberal arts and sciences. Footnote. The Hallowell poem, although it differs from the later manuscripts in so many particulars, agrees with them in giving a descant on the arts and sciences. I have already shown that among schoolmen contemporary with the legendists, these 7 arts and sciences were considered in the curriculum of education not so much as the foundation, but as the finished edifice of all human learning. The legend naturally partook of the spirit of the age in which it was invented, but especially did the Masons refer to these sciences and make a description of them, the preface, as it were, to the story that they were about to relate, because the principle of these sciences was geometry, and this they held to be synonymous with Masonry. Now, the intimate connection between geometry and architecture, as practiced by the operative Freemasons of the Middle Ages, is well known, since the secrets of which these Freemasons were supposed to be in possession consisted almost solely in an application of the principles of the science of geometry to the art of building. The legend next proceeds to narrate certain circumstances connected with the children of Lamech. These details are said in the legend to have been derived from the book of Genesis, but were probably taken at second hand from the Polychronicon, or universal history of the monk Higden of Chester. This part of the legend, which is not otherwise connected with the Masonic narrative, appears to have been introduced for the sake of an allusion to the pillars on which the sons of Lamech are said to have inscribed an account of the sciences which they had discovered, so that the knowledge of them might not be lost in consequence of the destruction of the world which they apprehended. The story of the inscribed pillars was a tradition of every people, narrated with variations by every historian, and implicitly believed by the multitude. The legendists of Masonry got the account from Josephus, perhaps through Higden, but altered it to suit the spirit of their own narrative. We are next told that Hermes discovered one of these pillars, and was, from the information that it contained, enabled to restore the knowledge of the sciences, and especially of Masonry, to the post-Diluvian world. This was a tribute of the legendists to the universally accepted opinion of the ancients, who venerated the thrice great Hermes as the mythical founder of all science and philosophy. We are next told that Nimrod, the mighty hunter before the Lord, availed himself of the wisdom that had been recovered by Hermes. He was distinguished for his architectural works, and first gave importance to the art of masonry at the building of the Tower of Babel. The legend attributes to Nimrod the creation of the Masons into an organized body, and he was the first who gave them a constitution or laws for their government. Masonry, according to the legendary account, was founded in Babylon, whence it passed over to the rest of the world. In all this we find simply a recognition of the historical opinion that Chaldea was the birthplace of knowledge and that the Chaldean sages were the primitive teachers of Asia and Europe. The modern discoveries of the cuneiform inscriptions show that the Masonic legendists had, at a venture, obtained a more correct idea of the true character of Nimrod than that which had been hitherto entertained, founded on the brief allusion to him in Genesis and the disparaging account of him in the Antiquities of Josephus. The monastic legends had made Abraham a contemporary of Nimrod, and the book of Genesis had described the visit of the patriarch and his wife to the land of Egypt. Combining these two statements, the idea was suggested to the legendists that Abraham had carried into Egypt the knowledge which he had acquired from the Chaldeans and taught it to the inhabitants. Thus it is stated that Egypt was, after Babylonia, the place where the arts and sciences were first cultivated and thence disseminated to other countries. Among these arts and sciences, geometry, which we have seen was always connected in the Masonic mind with architecture, held a prominent place. He who taught it to the Egyptians was typically represented by the name of Euclid, because the old Masons were familiar with the fact that he was then esteemed, as he still is, as the greatest of geometricians and almost the inventor of the science. Accepting the allusion to Euclid not as an historical anachronism, but rather as the expression of a symbolic idea, we can scarcely class the legendary statement of the condition of learning in Egypt as a pure and unadulterated fiction. It is an undoubted fact that Egypt was the primeval land whence science and learning flowed into southern Europe and western Asia. Neither can it be disputed that civilization had there ripened into maturity long before Greece or Rome were known. It is, moreover, conceded that the ancient mysteries, whence Masonry has derived not its organization, but a portion of its science of symbolism, received its birth in the land of the Nile, and that the mysteries of Osiris and Isis were prototypes of all the mystical initiations which were celebrated in Asia and in southern Europe. They have even been claimed, though I think incorrectly, as the origin of those in Gaul, in Britain, and in Scandinavia. By a rapid transition, the legend passes from the establishment of masonry or architecture, for it must be remembered that in legendary acceptation the two words are synonymous, to its appearance in Judea, the land of behest, where under the patronage and direction of King Solomon, the Temple of Jerusalem was constructed. All that is said in this portion of the legend purports to be taken from the scriptural account of the same transaction and must have the same historical value.